Mr. Miracle. Yeah, I can kind of see why you'd be hooking up with Barda. She's dumb thick. Good for you, bro. Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Back in the Day. You see, I'm reading one of my favorite comics, Mr. Miracle, here. And I got to tell you, I have been a huge comic book fan all my life. And that's what today's episode is about. But first, before we get into that, I have to say I've been collecting comics since I was yay big. I mean, I was probably like 5 or something. And I grew up during a phenomenal era of comic books and the big boom of comic book collecting there in the 90s. Of course, it didn't go quite as according to plan as like everybody thought, like, oh, they were going to get all these issues and stuff and everything was mass produced, but thinking that it was going to be worth a ton of money. And I don't know, some of the stuff is of value, but not nearly of what collectors thought it was going to be. But nonetheless, it was awesome for somebody like me because I had easy access to get all these amazing comics as a kid. I would get like, I can remember going into like comic shops and they were running like specials where it was like, 10 comics for like $1 or something like that, But man, oh man, like as a kid in the 90s, it was awesome. But that being said, there was also a lot of times too where I couldn't quite find like the comics or the key issues I was looking for. Like I would go to multiple local shops in my area and just couldn't find what I was looking for. And that is where going to comic book conventions will come into place. And that's what today's episode is here on Back of the Day, as we're going to be looking back when I went to Wizard World Chicago in 2004. So when comic conventions first started, it wasn't about all the hoopla of like the next big projects coming out from Marvel or DC or any other publisher. It wasn't about film, TV shows, none of that. It was strictly about the comics. You go to a comic book convention, you look to try to find those really hard to get issues, those key issues you were looking for, and also to meet your fellow comic book fans. Some like-minded individuals who was into the same stuff as you. Interesting enough, the first Comic-Con actually took place in New York City in 1964. And of course, everybody knows about San Diego Comic-Con. And in the 70s, that's when San Diego Comic-Con got started. And originally it was just for comics and stuff, but when you had a lot of the comic book creators urge San Diego Comic-Con to, hey, let's involve other things of pop culture. Let's do sci-fi. Let's do other things that people would be into. And thus it just exploded in the 80s and 90s and, of course, into the 2000s. I can remember when I would go to Comic-Cons as a kid, it was all about, like, getting some cool stuff. But, man, when the 2000s hit, holy crap, Comic-Con took on became this whole new monster. I mean, you would have all these studios lined up to get in. I mean, we all know about like Hall H for Marvel at San Diego. I mean, it just became the thing. And of course, publishers would get in on it. All their new titles would get like announced and stuff. I mean, if you were anybody in the comic book industry, you had something big you were about to drop, you were going to announce it at Comic-Con. And of course, what about all the different collectibles you can get in exclusive, whether that's titles, covers of comics, exclusive prints, toys, and so much more. The evolution of comic book conventions is mind-boggling to me when you think about it. When I was going to comic book conventions as a kid, it was really just all about like trying to find those key issues and stuff, and there really wasn't a whole lot of celebrity guests, maybe like 1 or 2 or something, and some comic book creators and stuff. I can remember when like comic book conventions really started like booming in the early 2000s and stuff. And of course, you got to look at that time frame too, where I think the comic books in general was being more accepted into pop culture. Because yes, you had a plethora of TV shows and cartoon shows throughout the years, but films notoriously did not do very well. And then, in the late 90s, you have like Blade comes out, and that does great. And then, of course, the first X-Men, and then later on we get Spider-Man and stuff. So that's when it was like a lot of studios realized the best place to go to make their announcements would be at Comic-Con, specifically San Diego Comic-Con, which was the be-all, end-all. I can remember watching G4 back in the day, and they was actually doing live coverage from San Diego Comic-Con. It was awesome. It was awe-inspiring. And granted, it had been a minute since I'd been to a convention, so it was like the bug was nipping at me, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, you can tell we're in heaven, baby.
Ah, yes, 2004 XLJ new. Man, oh man, I was so pumped and excited and just flabbergasted and in awe of being on the floor at Wizard World Chicago. Now, I am going to go ahead and apologize in advance because, yes, the camera work here is shaky, but man, oh man, you're going to see, like, what an amazing trip back in time in 2004 and what it was like going to a big-time convention. Now, one thing that blows my mind about conventions then in comparison to now is, like, you just pay for your ticket and, like, you didn't have to pay extra or anything to, like, go to any meet and greets and meet some of the artists and stuff. And here you see this is Dynamite Comics launching the very first ever Evil Dead comic book. This is the Ash to Ashes series. And here we meet both the writer and the artist, Nick Bradshaw. And what Nick Bradshaw does here is really cool to see.
I'll be back. Thank you for the sketch, man. I appreciate that. That is awesome. Inside, outside on yours? I'll take it the outside. Inside, outside?
How freaking cool is that? Not only did he sign the issue, he also did a freehand sketch on there.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh, and check out the awesome View Askew booth.
Oh, check us out. My type of people.
So what my friend Matt here is asking is if Clerk star Brian O'Halloran, who plays Dante, is working the booth, and the answer is yes. And what I mean by working the booth, he's just selling the merch.
No, that's Brian, he says.
At this time frame, really good friend, my best friend at the time, Matt, who I worked with at Blockbuster Video. We were into a lot of the same stuff. We were into pro wrestling. We were into similar music tastes, sci-fi, movies, and, of course, comic books. So from talking to him, he convinced me to, like, let's go check out one of the biggest comic book conventions going at the time, Wizard World Chicago. But before we get to talking about Wizard World Chicago, we got to give respect and pay homage to Wizard Comics Magazine, which was an amazing magazine that covered comic books. Wizard Magazine. It was the be-all, end-all for us comic book fans. Running from 1991 to 2011, Wizard produced over 200 issues. And it always kept us comic book fans so well informed. I mean, originally I think the idea behind it was like, oh, let's have like a price guide, because if you're a comic book fan, you know, price guides usually would come out yearly, so this was nice to have something monthly, more up to date. You could see the value of books rise, and of course it made sense too, especially being in the 90s with the big comic boom, which would kind of become a bust. But anyways, Wizard was also key in telling us about upcoming projects in pop culture, such as like film and television and any other comic book property that you could think of that would be getting introduced into pop culture. One thing I also loved about Wizard was, especially back in the day, they would put a lot of shine on independent publishers like Image Comics, like Dark Horse Comics, Top Cow, just to name a few. And you would always turn to Wizard to see who the top artists and writers were and what books they were working on.
Yeah, I can remember like collecting Wizard magazines and getting like it was almost kind of like collecting comic books too, because I mean there was so many interesting articles, but the covers on these magazines were incredible by some of the great comic book artists of the times. And I mean Wizard did a great job of covering like all the different publishers. And really through Wizard, I think is kind of how I discovered like Image Comics and other comic book publishers that I wasn't quite familiar with outside of Marvel and DC.
I see somebody very hot.
Okay, XLJ, kind of calm yourself down there. I know she's a pretty attractive lady, but you don't need to Google or Oogle her as much. Oh, God, I had no game when I was in my 20s. At least my early 20s.
And if you couldn't already tell by now, yes, we were hanging out here at the DC Comics booth. Now, the DC booth was also affiliated with Mattel, and Mattel was there selling some exclusive figures for Wizard World Chicago, hence why we saw She-Ra earlier. But speaking of exclusives, let's take a look at some of the exclusive offerings, as well as the huge lineup of mega guests at Wizard World Chicago in 2004. So some of the big names appearing at Wizard World in 2004 was Joss Whedon, who was actually there and announced that Firefly would be getting a movie, which was really cool. I wasn't the biggest Firefly fan, but it was pretty cool they were making this announcement at Wizard World Chicago. Also, they had Kevin Smith, who I adore, and Kelly Hu, who was red hot off of her X2 role, where she played Lady Deathstrike. Along with the amazing lineup and plethora of special guests, Wizard World Chicago also produced some exclusive items to the con. There was an exclusive variant cover for Wizard World Chicago for Ultimate X-Men issue number 50, as well as Humankind issue number 1. Which was really cool because these were actually given to us as part of buying our ticket to get into Wizard World. Now, there was a lot of different exclusive items as well from different vendors, but the big one by far, in my opinion, was the Mattel booth. And there they had the exclusive Batman unmasking figure, which, by the way, like out of every 1,000 or something, it was him with the mask all the way off, with people were trying to get. And, of course, it being Mattel, they had an exclusive She-Ra figure as well.
Negro. Look at this guy, he's ripped. It's Mark Singer. That is so cool.
Still have them, man.
What's wrong with you?
Say again? Oh, Grandpa. I don't know. He may be.
Yeah, it was interesting too to see like all the celebrities there too, because I don't even think I realized like who all was going to be there. I mean, I knew of the big names that was going to be there, but not realizing like, you know, you have these stars from the past. Like I know my dad would have got like a huge kick out of meeting like Buck Rogers. I mean, Lou Ferrigno, good God, man, he looked like an Adonis even like in 2000. Hell, he looks like an Adonis now, but. Was amazing. Get to see that massive amount of humanity. And I got to say, I've been to several wrestling conventions since this, and I swear Virgil had the same sign he used at all of his meet and greets. R.I.P. to the meat sauce god. Also, I find it hilarious how I was marking out about meeting or seeing the Beastmaster. I watched the hell out of the Beastmaster as a kid. Like TBS replayed it all the time. Good times.
Doom are ruling the earth.
Doom and Galactus taking over Comic-Con. Well, speaking of taking over, now we're going to check out the Marvel booth, which is not short of some of the most amazing comic book creators of all time. And I got to tell you, in 2004, Marvel was cooking. Matter of fact, let's take a look back at what was hot in comics in 2004. Hi, Brian Michael Bendis. You were everywhere. In 2004, DC made a little bit of a comeback in the comic world. Their big title of the year was by far Identity Crisis. Now, Identity Crisis was a massive event in DC Comics, and I can remember the intrigue behind this storyline was fascinating. And you gotta keep in mind, in this time frame, landmark stories in comics was really starting to kind of take off and be a big thing. I mean, you could say there wasn't as big of an event like this in DC Comics since the Crisis on Infinite Earths or Superman's death. Outside of Identity Crisis, though, you could easily say Superman and Batman was DC's biggest title, and Jeff Loeb was the mastermind behind this incredible run. And speaking of Big Blue, Superman finally got the shot in the arm it deserved as Brian Azzarello teamed up with famed comic book artist Jim Lee, who was returning to the DC universe. He had just returned to do Batman, and now he was going to do Superman. And Jim Lee is one of the greatest comic book artists of all time. But as great as all those titles were, The Flash was peak in 2004, written by the man who arguably many say saved DC Comics at this time frame, one Jeff Johns. But as great as DC was cooking at that time, it was all about the House of M, Marvel Comics, baby, being led up by Joe Quesada, who was the VP of Marvel at the time. But the huge books going on then was the Ultimate line of stories. They had Ultimate everything from X-Men to Spider-Man to Fantastic Four and so much more. And all of these issues was like just a new look on these characters, and they were all written by Brian Michael Bendis. I kid you not. They were literally all written by Brian Michael Bendis. Brian Michael Bendis in 2004 was everywhere in Marvel. I mean, there was never a book or a character that this man did not write for in the Marvel universe. But the Marvel bullpen was loaded with some amazing comic book artists and writers as well. Over on Spider-Man Marvel Knights, you had Mark Millar writing, and Mark Millar coming off of that hot run of Wanted, which was an amazing comic book series that he created for Top Cow Comics. You also had Joss Whedon, who was writing comics, and yes, the same Joss Whedon from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly, and so much more. But he was teaming up with a great artist in John Cassidy on Astonishing X-Men, which that book looked beautiful. Daredevil Marvel Knights was one of my favorite books, and they were cooking with gas in 2004. But the big tentpole event for Marvel in 2004 was Avengers Disassembled, and then introduction of the new Avengers. And you may be wondering yourself, gee, I wonder who wrote all of those issues? I'll give you one guess. Yeah, that's right. It was this guy here, Brian Michael Bendis. I told you, he wrote freaking everything in Marvel in 2004.
Marvel PP. Those are mine. This is the past. Thank you.
You're not allowed to, right?
Yeah. Hey, I dig your work, man. It's pretty sweet.
Thanks for waiting.
What?
Thanks for waiting in line.
Oh, hey, man. It's worth it.
Oh, how cool is that? Tell him thank you for waiting in line. What a class act John Cassidy is. Oh, wait a minute. I think that's Brian Fawn. Okay, a white bald dude. That is what Brian Fawn looks like, and there's 3 of them here at the Marvel booth. I'm sorry, my memory's not as good as it once was. But as cool as all these creators are, the interaction we got to have with Mark Millar was amazing.
Oh, sorry.
I know, it's like... So who's the mystery dude?
It's just my bed rally here, yeah.
It's like the whole thing is a perfect finish in terms of everything.
Yeah.
Might as well. You're here, right?
I thought you tied up too, but you didn't, so it's kind of like still out there. It's kind of nice.
Oh yes, the way I'm planning it is like a David Mackers, you know, it's like a 3-act structure and it's one big epic to a mission. You know, see, you don't find out until issue 9 what the plan is,
Right.
and who's done it and why they've done it, you know. But they've kidnapped Sandy for like this really terrible reason.
What's the deal with Venom, man? Is there 2 or is there a show?
Well, the way I've done it is I've really just simplified it all again because Venom's a mess, you know, it's just all over the place.
It's like this.
So
I
I
can't
just
get
want to take it back, make it really simple. It's Eddie Brock. He hates Spider-Man, you know, and he's got the Venom symbiote thing, you know. So my idea for it though is there was a German serial killer who watched The Passion, Mel Gibson's The Passion, and decided that he was a bad guy and turned himself in, you know. And I just thought Eddie Brock is a religious character,
Right.
and I thought he's seen The Passion, and he just decides not to be Venom anymore, so he gives it, he auctions the symbiote, and he's going to die without it, you know. And somebody else becomes the new Venom, you know.
That's cool,
It's
man.
it's beautiful art. Like Frank Cho's already drawn
What would you like?
the issue.
Anything you like.
Yeah, right on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ah, you've lost. It's nobody has guessed right. I mean, I've checked all the boards, and absolutely no one's called this right yet. Nobody's guessed right, you know. So but Ben Reilly, this is the recording. Ben Reilly could have something to do with it slightly, but it's actually much more insidious. And there's a lot of people involved. It's a real big deal that's happened, and it ties everything all the way back to the first year of Spider-Man comics 40 years ago. It ties in with something huge and why the villains have came after Spider-Man from the beginning. You know, it's a real big deal.
I thought
Everybody's going to be either pissed off or love it. I don't know. It's issue 9. You find out.
Get out there and make lemonade, man.
How freaking cool was that? Mark Millar talking to us about like the storyline going on with Spider-Man. I love the fact that he mentioned message boards. He checked the message boards. Oh my God, this is so 2004. You know, one of the cool things I've always enjoyed about going to comic book conventions was what they call Artist Alley. Now, this is where you see a lot of true independent artists on hand. Met a lot of unique people on Artist Alley. One of them being a young lady named Cleopatra. I think she went by Cleopatra of the Nile. And yes, she was an adult film star, but a very beautiful, very sweet and charming young lady. And yes, I did like do like a meet and greet package with her where um, I remember like back then it wasn't even like you didn't have cell phones. Like the cell phones could take pictures, but it's not like it was now. There were like smartphones were around, so literally take a Polaroid. And then she gave me like a bead necklace to wear it around or something and would sign it. And she also took one of the nudie mags that she was in and signed it. The centerfold. And I'm not talking about Playboy. I'm talking about Hustler. If you know, you know.
And this was the lovely Cleopatra.
Unfortunately, in doing my research for this, I found out that she's tragically passed away. So, sad to hear, but beautiful young lady. Rest in peace, Miss Cleopatra of the Nile. You gave a young XLJ very, very, very good memories in 2004, if you know what I'm saying. What? I'm only human, after all.
We are in 938. We're right over near the food section.
It's going to be a hard thing to negotiate. You enjoy that spring
Where the other guy was right there. We're not a bunch of webs, right?
Man, oh man, like what an amazing time we had at that Wizard World. I mean, I walked out with some amazing memories, but I also walked out with a ton of cool stuff too. And here's the cool thing. I still got some of my key issues that I collected from Wizard World Chicago. I'm so happy. I'm going to share it with you right now. So unfortunately, I don't still have all the stuff I got there because I got quite a bit. Like my big issue I got was Amazing Spider-Man 121, which back then I got first steal for like $100 and some. I mean, that book is gone for way more than that nowadays. But man, that was like my white whale, so to speak. It was cool. I was able to pick that up. Also had like the limited run First Wolverine miniseries. I've sold that since then. I did actually have the Batman unmasked, or the Batman pulling his mask up figure. But I think I sold that too at some point. And then I did have like a Batarang too, like a lifelike Batarang. But there's some other cool stuff I had. But this is what I got left over. Some cool comics from then. Okay, first off, I've saved it. You saw it in the video. I still have it, yes. My Army of Darkness, Ashes to Ashes, issue 1. Signed by Nick Bradshaw. And there you see the sketch that he did on that video 20 years ago. And I still got this thing, man. How cool. I'm so glad that I still have this, because that was an amazing memory, too. I've never had that interaction with a comic book artist where they would do like a live sketch. I mean, I've met several since then and done that, but just really cool. This is like the first real one, and I still have it 20-some years later. Also picked this up. Now, this was a big thing at the time, was getting different like signed variant covers and stuff. And there was a miniseries, Ghostbusters, which had just come out. This was from a publisher, 88 Miles Per Hour. But this was like an exclusive. It's like signed by the artist and the writer too. But you can also see like there's an. I still have the certificate of authenticity of this exclusive cover, which this was. There's only 1,000 of these, and this is number 948 of 1,000 made. So I still have this in my collection. Also, you saw like there in Artist Row, one of the guys I met was the guy who wrote this unique book called Black Bastard. I still have these first 2 issues, which these are hilarious, by the way, too. I love interactions like that. And I still read these today. I mean, they're I don't know if he wrote any more past these. I'm sure they are. But this was a limit, like Rorschach Press. So like a very independent publisher. But like you saw the guy who was like in the full gimmick and stuff. Like the best way I can describe this is kind of like a Dolomite. It's like Shaft type of like comic book, more or less, you know. But yeah, I still got these. I thought that was really cool. Now we're getting on to like the key stuff that I picked up that I still have to this day, thankfully. This is really cool, man. This is an iconic cover. Now, granted, if you sent this in to get graded, it's not going to get the highest quality grade, but still, it's cool that I have it nonetheless. I probably, maybe at some point it'll get graded. I mean, it'll be a low grade, but I don't care. But here it is. Amazing Spider-Man King Size Annual. I think this is number 9 from 1973. That iconic cover with the Green Goblin and Spider-Man. This kind of coming off like the whole Gwen Stacy stuff. Like, oh man, this is really cool. I'm so happy that I still have this. I'm not sure what it's worth nowadays. Like I say, condition-wise, I don't know. But like, this is something I still cherish to this day. And then I picked up what I have left still is some key X-Men issues from Chris Claremont's run, of course. I was a huge fan of the Phoenix run, this iconic cover of Uncanny X-Men. I believe that's 136. A huge part of the Dark Phoenix storyline. And of course, you got to have this, the ending of the Dark Phoenix storyline, the special double-sized issue of Uncanny X-Men 137. There you see it. It's so iconic, so amazing. Oh, I can just smell it. I wish you could smell that. But yeah. And rounding out the bunch, thankfully I still have this. Now this is before Phoenix, but a huge storyline in the world of X-Men. Of course, I've got Uncanny X-Men issue 142, of course, part of the Days of Future Past storyline. I got some hell of a deals on this too. I can't even remember what I paid for this back then, but I'm gonna say it was probably less than like $50 or something. I mean, this issue goes for way more than that nowadays. So I got some tremendous deals at Wizard World Chicago there. But it's cool. Those are the stuff that I have left still from the con. I'm happy I still got it and can share it with you all here on Back in the Day.
Holy nostalgia, Batman! I got a full-on comic book chubby. Well, hope you have enjoyed us taking a look back at Wizard World Chicago in 2004. Now, we're not done just yet. Oh, no. That's right, there's going to be a part 2 of Back in the Day, Wizard World Chicago 2004. And on the next episode, we are going to be taking you inside the Wizard Comic Book Fan Awards. That's right. We were at the panel. You're going to see the show in its entirety, or at least I think it's in its entirety, on the next episode of Back in the Day. But let's go wrap it up for this one. If you excuse me, I got to get back to reading some more Mr. Miracle and Big Bertha. Oh, baby, daddy likey. Hot diggity dog. I know it's just a comic book, but she's dumb thick. Excuse me. Okay, fine. Here's a sneak peek of our next Back in the Day. Now, leave me alone. Let me enjoy my comic book. Yes, ma'am. As you wish.